get diagnosed right away. It also means, you know, the fact that many of my seniors have respiratory issues because of the diesel emission and everything, because 10,000 trucks come across that bridge every single day. 10,000 trucks. I was told that the Ambassador Bridge, to build a car in the United States, a truck has to come across 7 times before a car is actually built, because of the parts that need to come from both countries. So it's a very important, it's the most important border in the country. It's the busiest, it has 27% of our trade, and our #1 customer is Canada, so that's why you see so much emphasis on the bridge. Anyways, that was my first 6 months on the job, and now you know, we were in the majority. I passed my first bill, and it was exciting. I sit on appropriations, so I'm also able to decide, you know, how much money per pupil. For instance, in Detroit, many of you get about $7,300. I think it's lower now. It is lower now. About $7,000 per pupil. So even though you come here, this is considered so-called charter school, the money the state actually pays for each of you to pays the school or the charter, the specific board. There's a board that's established with each charter, and there's a management company, but each of you comes with a dollar figure. And that's why sometimes you'll hear people say, well, I love this charter school. I have to tell you, this is one of my charter schools that I can actually say, oh, this charter school actually works. Not all, and your teachers and your principal will tell you that, and Ms. Hamadi will tell you that not all charter schools are great. Some are actually in the business of making money, because again, you guys are all like 7,000 a piece, you know, and that's what they're thinking. Cha-ching is like, okay, how can we get paid for our buck? How can we, you know, basically be able to make a profit here, right? Where, you know, Ms. Hamadi gets such gratification, honestly, with the scores. She sees the scores, she just gets goosebumps. This woman that loves to tell people 100% of her kids go to college. You know, that makes her feel, you know, like she's accomplished something, and this is her legacy, you know. So there's difference. But anyways, that's something we do in the legislature, is on appropriations, which is the budget committees. We decide how much money to spend on various things. I've been able to save like $8 million in before and after school funding. I helped get some seed money, small amount of money for a community court program, which is a non-traditional program through the non-traditional court process, where it helps people, you know, we've got so much prostitution and so much of that going on in our community, and the police and the court system doesn't have the capacity or resources to really handle it. So I came up with this, coalition people went to go to New York, and they told me about this beautiful community court program in New York, and so we decided to try to bring them here, and decided to try to have something like that in Michigan, especially in the city of Detroit. The other thing I have been able to do, and I don't know how many of you guys have heard, but I have a neighborhood service center, and this is tremendous even for a lot of your parents. Getting people through everyday issues is probably more important, or as important, than any bill I could ever pass. Which means I've passed 5 bills, about 4 to 5 bills. I can't remember. I think one was a judiciary budget bill. But these bills I passed did not change your neighborhood, did not change your school, did not change, you know, your block, did not change the quality of your family right away. Because sometimes I feel in my heart, sometimes, you know, it takes 5, 10, 15 years before a bill, a public law, really changes your life. So that's why I use my office and my power of my office to advocate on behalf of my residents through my neighborhood service center. And our community helps me raise money, about $40,000 a year, just to house my neighborhood service center right in the community. We help people with foreclosure prevention. We do people's taxes for free. Instead of going to H&R Block or some of these notaries and getting $50 or $100, charging them so much money, we all are IRS certified, and we work with the County Aid Society to fill people's taxes for free. I also use the power of my letterhead. You guys should be amazed. I mean, I get landlords that are not doing what they're supposed to do. I'll put something on my letterhead, no joke. I send that sucker to the property owner, and he's like, oh my God, what, he doesn't know what a state rep does. All he sees is the Michigan seal, and he listens, you know, and usually it is a he, and he listens. And not only that, I put stuff on my letterhead, even if it has to do with, you know, issues with the school. And the power of the letterhead, I've learned, is extremely effective. probably even more effective, honestly, more effective than any bill I could pass. I've sent things on my letterhead to the EPA, and the EPA responded right away, versus you calling and saying, you know, I think there's the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, I really think the EPA should come down here and look at this or look at that. May not listen, but boy, you put it on that letterhead, and all of a sudden I get a response. Same thing with city stuff. And so I use the office to do those kinds of things. Some of my colleagues, and you hear the corruption, they use the power of the office for other things. But I try to use it in a very positive light. The other thing I use my office for is to convene people. So sometimes I'll send an email out, like I sent this email out because I really want to save Southwestern High School. I told a bunch of people, like, come and lie down on 4th Street with me to stop, literally block traffic and stop the closure of Southwestern, to bring a voice to some of the young people that really don't want that school closed. You know, that's the school I graduated from, but more importantly, 97% of the kids in that school last year graduated. That's huge in the Detroit public school system. And so to close a school that's actually working, finally working, and a school where we're 8 out of the 23 high schools, public high schools in the city that do well in the ACTs and the ACT scores. So it's a really great, successful school, and they're closing it. And so we want to do something else. So it's also power to convene people. So I'll send something out, and it's like, well, Rashida's going to be there, and we can go. And people feel a sense of, you know, this is something that's important. Same thing with, I was able to get the mayor and the city of Detroit in the same room with the EPA, the same room with the Michigan Department of Transportation on an issue, and that helped resolve something that was extremely important to my residents, which is to get the trucks out of the neighborhood. So those are things that you can do when you're in public office. Let me tell you, I get so many Muslims. How many people are Muslim in here? Is 100% probably? Mm-hmm. Okay, because I don't want to leave anybody out. I want to be inclusive. How many people are not American Muslims? Okay. So I get these Muslim, I swear, emails, calls. I want to run for office. What did you do to get elected? First of all, I walked every single street in my district twice. I lost 20 pounds. People have heard me say this, but I really did. I looked good. And I really went door to door and met people on a one-on-one basis. People would say, one woman, she was a sister, she was a nun, she said to me, why don't you wear the burqa? You know, and I said, well, it's all about interpretation. And I told her, and we sat down and talked for like a half hour, 40 minutes, just about that issue. And I realized, you know, in some sort of way, this was nasiib, you know, because in many ways, I tell you, I did not want to get into public office. Like, I never thought about it. My husband would pay you not to vote for me. I mean, he was like, I don't know why we're doing it, why we're getting involved in politics like this. Because it is very, very much, it's a very public office. I mean, everybody knows your business, and it's very uncomfortable sometimes. So, you know, going door to door and really knowing people and exposing our faith in that way of like wanting to serve, and that we're compassionate, and that we really care, that we really want to help, has really been phenomenal. But, you know, when people call me and say I want to run for office, first thing I say is, well, where do you want to run? What do you want to do? I don't know. You know, I've kind of been all over the world and all over the state. And I said, well, I was born and raised in the district I represent. So is there some attachment to that community? Because if you have no attachment to the people you're going to represent, then that's not a good idea, because you won't come off like real to them. Do you know what I mean? If you like decide to up and leave and go to Chicago and run for office, or live there for 3 years and say I want to run for office, and not do community work and not do the things that you're supposed to do to really get to know a community, it's not going to work. But I'll tell you, if you are going to represent a community you truly love, that you would raise your kids in, that you just absolutely have this true, strong commitment for, you will convince people, because they can sense that, oh wow, like she really cares about us, she wants to change our neighborhood, we should vote for her, or him. So I want you to know, you know, many people, when they start thinking about running for office, that's not the first thing they look at. They look at, can I win? I need you to look at first, you know, is this a community that I'm this much invested in, that I'm going to sacrifice time away from my family? I'm going to have these hard, long days of, you know, sometimes it never ends. Am I going to be able to want to give that much time into it? Because I don't want you to run for office, get into office, and just go and press a button. Like my colleagues, they'll come and they press a button all day. It's yes or no, and they go home. You know, I always say you're voting for 95,000 people. I mean, those are the things that you need to be conscious of, and it's not just about voting and just going home and being in committee, not doing anything, not offering amendments. You want more. We deserve more than that. The one regret I have, I mean, honestly, is when I ran for office the first time, my family was not very supportive. My husband, he was off and on. I mean, my husband's more, it's not that, we were young and my son was only 2, but it's because he knows me. If I feel like I can't help somebody, I cry. I cry all the time. And I can't help somebody, he's like, here it goes. He feels helpless. So he knows that I always work 80 hours a week no matter what I'm doing. But it really is a tremendous challenge because you're going to get that one family that you can't get their lights back on. You just can't because everybody ran out of money, you can't get their lights back on. Or that one family that's going to get deported. I'm not a member of Congress, and I will call every Congress member I know, please help them, please save this person. There's a gentleman named Gustavo who's been here for years, owns a business and everything, and he has all these kids. I mean, you just cry. I feel so much pain. Today, a teacher testified about their attack on their retirement. A teacher that taught for like 40 years, and you almost cry. I cry like Rashida's gonna cry, and I cried because he was talking about how much he loved his students, how much he just, absolutely gave his life. And he goes, I didn't just teach out of a textbook. I fed my kids. I clothed my kids if they needed it. I was here, and all because it wasn't because I got into teaching because I wanted to, become rich. You don't get into teaching because you want to become rich. But at the same time, I thought to myself, well, at the end, if I come and become a teacher, at the end, at least I'll be comfortable. I'll have a good pension, a good retirement package. Now, you have people going after that package, that promise that if they just stayed into teaching and educated our children, and they will get this wonderful package at the end, just a comfortable package, enough for them to again, not have to get on food assistance or other welfare programs. So it's been a really, truly shaky ride, but when I did win, my family all were like, oh great, because my dad was like, nobody's going to vote for Arab girl, come on Rashida. And I'm like, okay, all right, thanks for your support, Dad. And then my mother, who's like, oh, are you going to have another, does this mean you're not going to have another baby? I did have another baby last year, by the way. So I made her happy, and I still stayed in office. So you can make your parents happy, I promise you, and still do what you do. No, really, you can. And by the way, being pregnant, Republicans were much nicer to me. I have no idea why. No, really, they would open the door for me. We worked on bills together and everything. And when Yusuf was born, I brought him to the House floor. Every Republican male over there was carrying Yusuf all over the floor, and they were so cute. So you do make your family part of it. But it's very interesting now that I am in office. It really has brought my mother into, like, she raises her head, higher, because my grandmother had 2 boys. One was my father, who is middle class, working at Ford, who lived in Detroit, and then the other son lived in Dearborn. And he owned a store, and he's much wealthier. He still is much more wealthier. Man's wealthier than anybody. He doesn't act like it, but he's wealthier. He's very, very frugal. So you have these 2 folks, and even though we may have been in Detroit public schools and everything, we all did really, as well as we could be. And then you had my uncle, who had better opportunities for his kids through the school system and through the money that he had. My mother at weddings now, she walks in, her head held high, and like, yeah, well, my daughter's a congresswoman, and yes, she does promote me. But it is, imagine the weddings, and my mother walks in like, yeah, that's my daughter. And at the Jamaiya, at the one in Cleveland where all the Palestinians go to, she said, oh, I heard your mama, they put your picture on the poster. And so it makes her really proud. And my mother, for the first time, she was only 8th grade education. She decided after I got elected, she wanted to go learn how to read and write. And she never wanted to do that before. And so I think in many ways we can encourage ourselves. And I'm sorry for the males that I'm always constantly worried, but women